Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, starring Jerry Springer with Gene Galvin and me. I am Maria Corelli. We are recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience here in Folk School Coffee Parlor of Ludlow, Kentucky. And now here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Springer!
Would you notice how Maria's really getting professional? I really like that.
I mean that was. I mean, if you think of the first week she did it, it was kind of.
Well, she's
figuring
it out. But that
Hi, here's Jerry Springer.
No.
And now Gusto.
I'm here.
You own it.
That's Maria Corelli, and she's our third voice. And happy Hanukkah, by the way.
Thank you very much.
And
I hope everybody had a very nice Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I know. I sure did, and there's so much to be thankful for, including that.
What?
Oh, God. Hang on a second.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, no.
Whoa! Time out.
Hello.
What?
Gene.
You're the.
No.
You just gave a speech to everyone here to
I would do.
turn off their phones.
I would do that.
This is
Hang up.
unbelievable. He's
So
the producer of the
unprofessional.
show.
Is it whole or term life?
What?
No, I'm in a situation
Just
here.
stop. This is.
For
Gene, hang it up.
hold on a second. How much is my life worth? The guy's asking.
Right now?
like 5,000.
He better not
Hey, look,
sell it to you 'cause he's
sorry
gonna
about
have to
that. I'm
pay
just
up
messing
real
with you.
soon.
I'll have to call you back. I'm actually at work.
This is
Okay,
so
thanks for
unprofessional.
calling. Bye
This
bye.
is
Unprofessional.
So.
I apologize for that. I forgot to
This
turn
is-
the damn dinger off.
You
Okay,
just
let me
gave a
turn that
whole
down.
speech. Your people
right, I
listening
got
to
it
this
down.
don't understand.
I'm gonna have
With
to-
the audience here, you tell them, please, everyone, turn off your
I
phone.
have-
and you don't
I
remember.
apologize for that.
You're-
We're gonna have to
I
kick you
swear
out.
to God, that will
Unbelievable.
never happen again. But because I've tried to. Oh, give me a break, Maria.
You're still
That just
on,
happened to me.
Dad,
Guys, you're still on
Dad.
probation.
I'm
Dad,
What the-
I'm on the podcast right now.
Oh my
Hey,
God!
Dad.
Her dad's calling
ask your
her.
Here,
dad.
no, look. Yeah, it's Jerry. It's Jerry Springer.
Oh my God!
Dad, this is Jerry Springer. How many daughters do you have? Guess again.
So embarrassed.
That is bizarre.
Okay, bye, Dad.
That is
Sorry.
bizarre.
Well, that is.
That would happen. And
Woo,
then,
sorry, guys.
I mean,
I swear to God,
let's
as a
pretend-
producer of
let's
the Jerry
pretend
Springer
there are people
podcast,
that listen to this thing.
I can guarantee you that will never happen
All right.
again.
Professionalism from here on out.
Well, I mean, come on, it's a national podcast, and oh, for Christ's sake,
Are you serious?
are you kidding me?
What are the chances?
Oh, I want to hear this.
Hi, honey.
No.
What are you wearing?
Oh no!
that's
Oh
a
no!
joke.
That's got to get cut. No, we have to cut that.
That's a joke, for God's sake. Just stop
That's
it.
got to get cut.
Why would anybody say that?
Why? My God.
No kidding. That is, and I apologize for Gene.
Hey, yeah. Yeah, that,
Seriously,
I swear to God, that won't
can we
happen
just-
again. Yeah, everybody, let's just turn the
let's
phones
turn them off.
Okay.
Do you know how to do that, Jerry?
By the way, well, look, look how he comes in, slides in here real
Do you
late.
turn-
How do you turn?
Louis Beck just walks in, and they held a seat for him and everything.
Thank you.
Louis Beck. Hey, by the way,
Yes.
Casey Campbell is our musical guest tonight.
Oh my God.
And everybody here knows who Casey Campbell is because
Yeah.
he's our music coordinator. But more importantly, and Maria, you would agree, he is really good.
He's awesome.
He's really good. And he's from our area. He lives in the greater Cincinnati area. But he is kind of, good beyond that. I'd say he's
Oh,
at
yeah.
some other level, as you are, Nashville level and New
Yeah,
York
we're
level.
super lucky to have him here.
Yeah, we took
very
him-
talented. Performs alone. Performs with a couple groups, and he's a solo performer tonight. And we just love the stuff he writes. And
We took him to Cuba.
he went to Cuba with us
and
when
they
we
didn't-
did.
no
it.
one knew who he was, and he just, none of us spoke Spanish very well, and he's just standing on the wall there in Havana.
Yeah.
And,
Malecon, the flood wall in Havana. Yeah.
And he just on a Friday evening just started playing his guitar, and this crowd forms. This isn't a joke.
They knew nothing about him. They didn't know who he was.
And it was great. He was playing. They were cheering. It was,
And one other thing, do you remember a couple nights before that, we were in a club, like a folky kind of club in downtown Havana, and he performed there along with some prominent Cuban folk singers, and they loved him there.
Yeah.
And, that's the test, Maria, and you've done this. You've performed. You did a festival in Mexico last spring or so, as I recall.
Yeah.
If you
About
can
this
go
time.
off somewhere else, stand up and perform, and people like what you're doing, that's a test. Because you just walk in out of nowhere and you do your thing, and you have that, and Casey has that.
Well, with
and you're very
Casey,
lucky.
he's in Cuba, and they saw right away he's a card-carrying communist. And they just love.
I'm trying to think, will that help his career here or hurt it? Might help it.
Yeah.
It actually might help it.
Yeah. It may help now. Yeah.
But, and Jerry, in a minute, let me work. Oh, look at this.
Okay.
For those of you
let's
listening-
understand what's happened in the show so
Only
far.
broke the mic.
Facebook Live can see this, but anyway, that's
Okay, so
We don't need
this is
that.
it. Today the
Yeah, I don't
table
need
didn't
that.
break.
we're
Your
good.
phone has been on. You
well, that will
break
never
your
happen
microphone.
again. That will never happen
Or you're
again.
fired.
We're off to a great start. Why don't you start? Let's start it again. You just it's Jerry.
I want to ask you a question here that relates to the Trump administration, but real fast, Maria, over to you. You are, and we were talking about this right before the podcast started, you are building your own guitar, and you're learning the skills of a luthier. You're working under a luthier to build your own guitar.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And Jerry was asking, why does it take so long? And you were saying it's such meticulous woodwork.
Yeah. So in the little free time that I have, I like to go down to it is a luthier, Rick Hayes.
Okay.
He lives over in Goshen, which
Goshen,
is
Ohio.
yeah,
East
so-
of Cincinnati.
correct.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time that goes into it is really just the tiny, meticulous, almost painstaking at times work that goes into the little elements of it. Like if you see a guitar, the front of the guitar, if you were to look just on the underside of that, there's a whole complex structure of braces, like wooden braces,
Wow.
and it's all woodwork. You're working with wood. It's something that's alive. Really, it still is alive. Like you put it through a sander, it gets, Rick always says this, Rick Hayes of Rick Instruments says it gets kind of like gets shocked for a second, and then you have to let it rest for like a few days
Really?
after you kind of put it through all this.
And in the building of it,
rigorous-
it's all in pieces, and it gets
Yeah.
assembled kind of as one of the final steps?
Yeah. So I've got the whole box of the guitar done, but I still have to put the neck on it. So it kind of just takes a while. And
Do you think when you're done with that guitar, do you intend to play out with that guitar versus the Martin that you use? What do you think? Is that your goal?
yeah, I would hope to, and that's one of Rick's reasons for reaching out to me too. He saw how much I play out as a musician, and it's mutually beneficial. I get an incredible guitar, and then he gets kind of free advertisement.
Because when
from-
you're out there, you'll say this came.
this is
You'll
a
tell
Hayes.
that guitar story.
Yeah, and it'll have Hayes in the headstock too.
Yeah, I'm not joking. It'll be so much fun when that's done.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you bring it in here and on a podcast, do a set for us, and
I would love
let
that.
us hear it.
Yeah, I'm sure Rick would love it too.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's another reason why I wanted to get you into that conversation is to cross
What
promote
is it? A
him.
Luther? What is
Luthier.
Luthier?
Yeah.
Where does that word come from?
Oh man.
From lute?
Harold Tucker. There's no microphone on him, but he's saying it comes from the lute word.
Yeah.
Lute, but it is
Cool.
both a repair man or woman in the
Yes.
guitar world, stringed instrument world, or the maker. Am I correct there,
Yeah.
Maria?
So working with wood to put the instrument together, and understanding like the different physics. Of
And
an
one last thing,
instrument.
there's a guy named Ben Knight who is a Ludlowian, another member of what I call the creative class who's moved in.
Ludlowian?
Yeah, that,
Who's moved into Ludlow.
What the?
that's
And
what we're
Ben-
called, Jerry.
And Ben has a degree from, I think it's University of Louisville, because I've talked to him about this. And he's a craftsman. But now he's working in the luthier shop that's in the basement of Folk School Coffee Parlor, correct?
Yeah.
So he's now taking his cabinet making skills and moving them over to this more meticulous, fine crafts work of being a luthier, repairing and making instruments. Pretty cool. And it's another, every now and then I just love to plug this little town of Ludlow. There's so much stuff going on that's cool, and that's another one.
Oh, yeah.
That Folk School Coffee Parlor now has a shop in the basement where you can have a guitar worked on. I have a 1972 Yamaha guitar, which sounds great, by the way. It's been mine from the very beginning. Needs a little work, and I'm going to have somebody work on it, either you or Ben or somebody.
Yeah, you got him right here in the town.
I have a
Ludlow.
1961 tuba.
You want to know what you do have? Because remember...
You gave it to
on
me
your
for
birthday.
my birthday. I think it was the 30th birthday.
yeah, the 30th birthday.
Did you really?
But I
Oh,
bought for Jerry, I found, Maria, check this out.
He bought-
I saw online a picture of Jerry when he was in college. I think you were a counselor at a camp. Would that have been high school, college? Or it might have been at Tulane.
No, I think that it was in the fraternity house.
Okay.
Back playing the guitar.
And he had a guitar, and I found it online. I did a close-up of it and saw
did.
that it was a
Still have
Harmony
it.
something or other. And I found one, bought it, and then took it to a luthier in Cincinnati. And here's what they said. It's a good luthier in Cincinnati. And they said, this is kind of a junk guitar. And I said, well, it's a gift for somebody. And they said, for who? I said, for Jerry Springer.
I said, well, it's good enough for him.
And they said, no shit, that's for Jerry Springer? And they said, well, wait a minute. And they started pulling guitars off a shelf that were used guitars, but good ones, vintage guitars. And I said, no, the whole point of this is the guitar that he had when he was in college. So I want you to restore this one. And they said, fine. And I paid not much for the guitar and a lot of money to fix it.
And it came back as a tuba.
And it came back. It sounds as sucky as before they. So anyway, it was.
That came
of
with
course,
3 box tops from Cheerios. cereal.
Yeah. Well, we both had when we started playing guitar back in the '60s.
Well, I'm sure.
I had a Stella, made same company by the way, and you had a Harmony, and they were cheap ass guitars.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's all we
'cause
could afford.
Yeah.
But anyway, hey Jerry, question: is the noose tightening on Donald Trump, and maybe put it into historical perspective? Because people listen to these at different times. But this is right after Thanksgiving, 2018, and some think that the Mueller investigation is closing in on Trump. What's your take?
Obviously, I have no inside information, but yes, I think the end is near. And on the whole Trump-Russia drama, and I think it's near for a reason that isn't talked about that much. Mueller is, each day someone else is getting indicted now, someone else is flipping, someone else is pleading guilty. So clearly this isn't a witch hunt anymore. It never was, but for those that thought there's nothing there, obviously there's something there. Otherwise these people wouldn't be flipping or pleading guilty and going to prison for, in some cases, the rest of their lives. So obviously there's a reason why these verdicts are coming through. Now, and they're all, each one of them, they're in trouble for lying. I mean, that's one of the things they have done wrong. They have lied to the federal authorities. You know, whether you're talking about Manafort, Flynn, Gates, Michael Cohen, Papadopoulos, Jared Kushner, Don Jr., they're all lying about whatever involvement they had with the Russians. And so you start asking yourself, why is all this lying going on? Now, you can see Trump's motives. They're pretty clear. Trump wants to make money and he wants to be famous. Those are the two things that have driven his whole life. And so if he can get a deal someplace where he can make some money, whether it's building a Trump Tower in Moscow, or whether it's getting Russians to buy his condos from the various buildings that he owns, he's in it for making money. I mean, his motives are, childlike in terms they're so transparent. It's so easy to see what he wants. And then you ask yourself, if everyone's lying about these meetings, what's in it for the Russians? Why are the Russians involved in this? And what were the Russians going to get out of all these meetings? Now, on the long run, Russia's motives, if they take the long view, Russia's motives are what they always have been before they even were the Soviet Union. And we've talked about it before. Russia is interested in expansion. Russia wants warm water ports. Russia has always, throughout its history, wanted to push out. And Russia has been surrounded first by their own republics during the Soviet Union, when all the countries around it were part of the Soviet Empire. But then in 1991, when the Soviet Union dissolved, all these independent republics became independent countries. And a whole bunch of them joined up with the West. In fact, even became part of NATO. So this was just the worst thing that Russia could see happening. Not only did it lose its empire, but it's now losing its empire to the West. And Putin has said that 1991, the dissolution of the Soviet Union, was the worst catastrophe of the 20th century. When you consider some of the other things that went on in the 20th century, that's a remarkable statement. But the humiliation that the Soviet Union faced with that is not anything Putin has ever forgotten. So that's the long view. They would like to see the West dismantled. They would like to, see it weakened so that they can push out and these other countries not be a part of NATO. So in Trump, they saw a vehicle. Oh my gosh, this guy might be president. He's not going to be difficult to compromise because he wants money. And, we can help him out. And we can find ways to launder money, get money to him through his properties, whatever. We can give Trump what he wants personally, and we will have an American president who is willing to undercut NATO, create chaos in the West, do away with the European Union if necessary, have the split with Great Britain, all the things that pull out of all these international treaties. In other words, dismantle the West, and that's the long view of what a guy like Trump could do for Putin and the Russians. But there's something very specific that they wanted on the short term. They wanted the sanctions lifted, which were installed by the United States because Russia going into the Ukraine and taking Crimea. So that's what they wanted on the short term. That's what the meetings would be about. That was the prize. Well, here's the part where it gets really dangerous. If all these meetings, let's say they really were about the sanctions, why are all these people around Trump lying? It's not such a big deal. If they would have admitted, yeah, we've just been elected, or we were about to be elected with a new administration. We have 2 months before we take the oath of office. We're going to have our new foreign policy. Of course, we're going to meet with leaders of other countries, with people involved in other governments to establish what we're going to do. Every presidential candidate makes a trip to Europe or Asia or wherever, South America, to show that they have the gravitas to be a president and deal with foreign policy. So there's nothing outrageous about that. Maybe they should have waited a few more weeks. But once Trump's elected, if they meet with Russian officials about what kind of relationship they want to have with Russia, with the new administration, with a different philosophy, which is totally consistent with the philosophy he talked about during the campaign, why are they lying about that? Why are these individuals around him willing to go to jail for the rest of their life to protect a meeting what wasn't so bad to begin with if they didn't lie about it? So any rational person has to conclude that there must be something else. Now, generally, in figuring out when Trump's lying, I mean, the wise guy would say you can tell when Trump's lying because his lips are moving. But a better way is to say that Trump lies whenever he keeps repeating himself. Sometimes he'll repeat himself in the same sentence. If he says something twice or three times right in a row, you know that in his mind, he's covering something up. He's lying. Like when he said, for over a year now, I have no dealings with the Russians. I don't own property there. I don't have a deal with them. I'm not trying to get a deal with them. We have, nothing. And he kept saying it over and over again. And then how he holds his hands up. Nothing, zero, nothing with Russia. Get that straight. I've never, and now, of course, this week, well, okay. But even if I did have meetings with the Russians, what's wrong with that? Which should have been his very first answer. And then he wouldn't be in this kind of trouble. Yeah, I talked with the Russians. I was about to be the president. And yeah, I'm concerned about various relationships. And no one can be surprised if before he became president, he had financial dealings because, as he rightfully said, he was a businessman and he made business deals. Again, none of this would be impeachable. None of this would put people in jail for the rest of their lives. So what else is going on? I believe two things. One, I think Mueller is on the track because he's obviously got something that he's going to. There probably is collusion in terms of the campaign with the WikiLeaks, with the social media, how the Russians got involved in that, with fake news, fake websites, fake news, etc., with the laundering money to get it to the Trump campaign. So there's that. And you would think, wow, that is the most serious problem. And it is a serious problem. But think about this. It is not new that politicians lie when they're in trouble. And the most obvious example is Nixon. But there's a difference. When those guys lied, it's because they're in a scandal themselves. And they're trying to not get in trouble for the scandal of their own that affects their own life or political life. What is dangerous here, and it's still going on, is that anything Trump did or said with the Russians know. Think about it. We're all trying to guess what happened. What did they do? The reporters are trying to figure it out, all the analysts. But the point is, whatever he did, the Russians know. And if it is something like collusion or whatever crimes they committed, the Russians are holding that over Trump's head, even if they never said that to Trump. If they were at meetings, if they had conversations about the Trump Tower, whatever is going on there, Trump knows that the Russians know. And all the Russians have to do anytime Trump disappoints Putin or does something against Russia's interest, all Putin has to do is let it leak out. Some email gets leaked. Some conversation, and any conversation with the Russians is taped, is recorded. Anything the Russians did, they'll just leak it out because it's not bad for the Russians. What are we going to do? We're going to bomb them? Of course not. They know that. They own Donald Trump. Think about it. Whether it was changing the platform at the Republican convention, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the one thing Trump wanted out of the platform was when we got tough with the Russians for taking over the Ukraine or Crimea. Whether it's how he never says anything bad about Russia, how he never says anything bad about Putin, how he resists trying to have sanctions against Russia. Even now, when the Russian attacked the Ukrainian ships last week or 2 weeks ago, basically nothing heard from Trump? Why is this going on? Any rational person has to say, well, they've got Trump, and they're not even threatening him. Trump just knows that Putin knows everything he did. So we now have an American government that has to worry every single day that we don't do anything that Russia doesn't want. Because if push comes to shove and there's a serious issue, they will leak it. And Trump is finished. And family members and himself could go to prison for the rest of their lives. I mean, because what we're talking about, if there really is collusion, it's treasonous. I mean, it's serious. This is what's going on. Not whether or not he had a particular financial deal. Not whether or not they talked about sanctions. It's not a big deal to talk about sanctions. But this is a big deal. And this is why I think what Mueller comes out with is critical that we see what it is. So whatever happens, we can stop the blackmail. Don't you see? If we can let the world know that we know everything that happened, then there's no longer any blackmail. The only time the blackmail continues is if things remain secret. And that is the reason the Congress, the American media, the world press has to find out exactly what happened so there is no basis for blackmail anymore. And my court show starts on September.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get Casey Campbell up to the microphone now. We have had him on a few different podcasts before, and he is the musical director of this Jerry Springer podcast. But we love when he gets back there behind the microphone because he has a heck of a voice and a knack for writing songs.
You got a heck of a voice.
So, Casey, what are you going to play for us?
Oh, I'm going to play a new song for you here tonight. The song's called Wrong Side of Right. Wrote it a while back.
Let's make sure his cell phone's turned off, Maria.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Jerry.
That'd be great.
Hey, I should have thought.
Where is your cell phone?
That would have been the fourth call. I like it, Casey.
Now, this song's called Wrong Side of Right, and it's a song I started writing a while back, and spending some time on the road. You end up doing a lot of your relationship doing in words, before you leave town, and then you have to sit on them until you get back, and then you get back, and then you have to deal with it all kind of, in a delayed fashion. And so this song all started coming from kind of that idea of, just kind of sitting on something when you're away from it, and the reflection that you can do in that moment. The song's called Wrong Side of Right. Hey love, it's me, I'm sorry I ain't called on you. We've been driving through the mountains, I've been trying but I couldn't get through. I've been pondering all morning the words that we had back home. And I'm sorry after such a long night to leave you alone. I get selfish with my words and lost in my head, just like a heartbreaking song after midnight. My cup's running over with the tears that you shed. I picked myself down on the wrong side of right. This life I've been living's catching up to me. 10 pounds from a flask, I ain't as happy as I used to be. I've been thinking about getting off the road for a steady job. The way it's going here lately, I'm down to bed steal or rob. You know I'm talking all the time like it's 4 a.m. using words I didn't learn from my mother. I miss her every day that I'm gone, but you know this life I live would just upset her. I know better. And time keeps rolling and my heart's been running out of things to say. I wish I could take back every single word I said the other day. They almost drove you away. Oh, but they were never meant for you. Such a sadness burning blue. Tomorrow is somewhere between Columbia and Kansas City. Thanks for the picture of you and the boys. God, you sure look pretty. I guess I better get going. It's pretty late here and I'll be driving soon, so I best rest. This run will be over just as quick as it came, and I'll be safely back home with my head upon your breast. Well, I'll let you go, I'll be talking for days. Just call me when you get this. I love you.
Whoa!
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh.
Woo. I've never done that one out before. I think that's the first time I've ever played that one live. So that's brand name. Thank you.
Beautiful. Wow.
So good. Thank you,
Well, thanks.
Casey.
My pleasure.
Yeah, maybe we'll have you back again.
Jerry, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard one of your songs, Casey, was you were, I don't even remember where we were. It was at a gig or something, and you were playing something off to the side, and I remember I was like, who was that? I thought it was like, I was like, I'm gonna go look this artist up, whoever's song that was, and go listen to them. And I was like, who was that? And Casey was just like, oh, I wrote that song. And it just blew my mind.
Oh, well,
like,
thank you.
Seriously, one of the
thanks
best
very
Cincinnati songwriters. Thanks for coming.
Oh, man, my
on
pleasure.
the
Thank you.
podcast.
Imagine what he could do if he were sober. Jesus.
God, you telling me.
Tell us where we can hear more of your music.
CaseyCampbellMusic.com. That's all one word. It's on Apple and Spotify and all the usual places. There is a Casey Campbell in Nashville that plays mandolin. He's played with all kinds of folks. He was on Prairie Home Companion and stuff. I'm not that guy. So if you find a Casey Campbell with a mandolin, he's a good guy too, I think, but it's not me. So just so you know.
Well, we'd love for you to sing Down by the Riverside with us.
I think I know that one.
Jerry can join.
I'm gonna lay down my heavy load down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. We're gonna lay down our heavy load down by the riverside. Let's study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. No, I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. No, I ain't gonna study war no more. No, I ain't gonna study war no more. Go on, Jerry.
Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside.
You've been listening to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, recorded live at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky. Thanks to Patrick Kennedy for writing our opening song, and to you for listening. Check out our website at jerryspringer.com.